Okay, here are the answers for the 721 review preview. So problem 116 says, imagine that the graph of y equals sine of x shifted up 1. Sketch what it would look like. So normally the sine curve starts at 0, 0, but it's going to shift up 1. It's going to go up 1. And it normally would, the midpoint would go up 1, and then it would come back down, and then it would go down again, and then it would go back up. So this is what the curve would look like if I shifted the whole curve up 1. Okay, so B says, what do you have to change in the equation to move the graph up 1 unit? Write the new equation. So we would have to add 1 to the whole function. So the equation would become y equals the sine of x, put that in parentheses, plus 1, because we want to add 1 to the whole thing. So then C says, what are the intercepts of our new equation? So the y-intercept would be 0, 1, because it moved up 1. And the x-intercept, there's actually infinite number of x-intercepts. But a couple would be, it's going to intercept at 3 pi over 2, comma 0. It'll also intercept at a negative pi over 2. We went the other direction, 0. And it's just going to keep going. So every 3 pi over 2 is going to intersect. And then D says, when you listed intercepts in part C, did you list more than 1? And the answer is yes. Should you have? And the answer is also yes. Problem 117, the graph array was made by shifting the first cycle of y equals sine of x to the left. How many units did it move to the left? It moved pi units. Figure out how to change the equation so the graph of the new equation will look like the one in this part. So it's going to be y equals the sine, since I moved to the left, it's going to be x plus pi. Problem 121, find the equation of the exponential function. So in order to do this, the passage to the point, first thing we do is we find the one with the biggest exponent, which is 4. So I'm going to do 3,888 equals AB to the 4th, divided by 18 equals AB to the 1st. So when I divide, I get 216 equals the A's cancel out, and I get B to the 3rd. So I took the cube root of 216 and got 6. So B equals 6. So then I plug it back in. I'm going to plug it into the 18. So 18 equals 6 to the first power is 6, 6A. So I divided both sides by 6 and got A to equal 3. So my equation is y equals 3 times 6 to the x. For B, I'm going to do the same thing. The smaller of the two exponents is actually going to be the 3. It's going to go on the top. So I'm going to do negative 0.25 equals AB to the 3rd divided by negative 2 equals AB to the negative 2nd. So when I divide those, I end up with 0.03125 equals, the A's cancel, B to the 5th. So I took the 5th root, so which gave me 0.5. So B equals 0.5. So then I plugged it back in. So I did negative 0.25 equals, I don't know what A is, but B is 0.5. 0.5 to the 3rd power ends up being 0.125 times A. So I divide both sides by 0.125. And I ended up with negative 2 as A. So when I write my equation, I'm going to get y equals negative 2.5 to the x. I don't like that. Okay, problem 122, solve each of the following equations. Be sure to check your solutions. So for the first one, I'm going to multiply everything by x times x plus 1. So when I do that, the x's cancel, so I'm going to get 3x plus 3. And the second one, the x plus 1's cancel, so I get 2x equals 5x times x plus 1. So I get 3x plus 2x, which is 5x plus 3, which equals 5x squared plus 5x. So I'm going to subtract 5x from both sides and 3. So I end up with the equation 0 equals 5x squared minus 3. So then I have to put it in the quadratic because I can't factor it. I don't have a middle term. So when I put it in the quadratic, I end up with plus or minus. So I don't have a b, so it just is 0 plus or minus the square root of 0, because b is 0. It's going to be plus 4 times negative 3 is 12, times 5 is going to be 60, divided by 10, because 2 times 5 is 10. So then 60, it's a square root of 60, so I can take a 4 out. The square root of 4 is, so it really becomes square root of 4 times the square root of 15, plus or minus, over 10. So it's 2, the square root of 4 over 10. Well, this reduces to, the square root of 15 over 5. So then I end up with plus or minus the square root of 15 over 5. That's my final answer. So for B, I just need to simplify. So I'm going to move everything over to the other side. So minus x squared, minus 6x, minus 9, minus x squared, minus 6x, minus 9. So I end up with 0 equals x squared, negative 3x, and negative 4. So then I factored it, and I ended up with x minus 4 plus 1. So my x's are equal to 4 or negative 1. So C, I have to get it where I can square both sides. So first I have to move over the 8. So I'm going to minus 8. So then I get negative the square root of 9 minus 2x equals x minus 5. Divide by negative 1 to get rid of that negative sign. So I get the square root of 9 minus 2x equals negative x plus 5. So then I have to square both sides. So when I square, and I'm just going to put it over here in a different color, when I square the negative x plus 5, so I'm going to get x squared, negative 5x, 25. I end up with, on this side, I end up with 9 minus 2x equals x squared minus 10x plus 25. Move everything over. So I'm going to add 2x minus 9. So I end up with 0 equals x squared minus 8x plus 16. So I factored it. I got x plus 4 times x plus 4. So x must equal negative 4. Oh, No, I got x minus 4. It should be minus 4s. So x actually equals positive 4. Problem 123, evaluate each of the following expressions. So tangent of 2 pi over 3, if I go on my unit circle, it ends up being over here. So it is negative 1/2 square root of 3 over 2. So to find the tangent, I divide those. I do the square root of 3 over 2 divided by negative 1/2. Square root of 3 over 2 times negative 2 over 1. 2's cancel, so I get negative square root of 3. Tangent of 7 pi is a negative, so the sine is negative 1/2. So if I look at my unit circle, and cosine is the negative square root of 3 over 2. So if I do negative 1/2 times negative 2 over the square root of 3, these would cancel. So I get negative divided by negative is positive, so I get 1 over the square root of 3. I rationalize it to get the square root of 3 over 3. The last problem says, David Longshot is known for his long golf drives. Today he hit the ball 250 yards and estimated the ball reached a maximum of 15 yards. Find a quadratic equation that would model the path of the golf ball. So my golf ball started here at 0. It went a total of 250. So it went up. The maximum height is going to be 15. So the midpoint, or the vertex, is going to be 125. So when I start my equation, I do y equals, I don't know what a is yet, x minus 125 squared plus 15. So I then chose to plug in 0, 0. So I get 0 equals a, 0 minus 125 plus 15. Subtract 15. This is 125 squared is 15,625. Divide both sides. So then when I divided it, I ended up with a equaling a negative 0.00096. So when I wrote my equation, I ended up with y equals times x minus 125 squared plus 15.